This is a video that goes a little bit more in depth into uh, motion tracking settings. Um, so what we've here, this is just a continuation of the first video, which was a quick start. We've already done one tracking point here on the sign, and we're going to continue and add a second tracking point onto a car that is passing by, this white car that's passing by. We're going to add a tracking point right there so that sticker here, oops, that's not okay. So this sticker is attached to that car door, and so it's going to zoom across just like in the car. Okay, so in order to do this, we need to add a second tracker to this environment. So we already have here a series of motion trackers, and you can see if we have tracker 1 and track point 1. And so why this is you actually can have multiple track points within one tracker. So I'm going to actually just rename these so things don't get too crazy. I'm going to call this sign tracker. I'll say sign trackers, so we get in the habit of knowing that there are multiple track points in there. And I'm going to call this sign point 1. We're only going to have one sign point, but at least we're setting up habits that are going to last and benefit us long term. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Well, actually, before we do, we know that the settings over here are in this tracker panel, but there's another way to access some of these. You can go into animation, and you can see here's track camera, and that matches over to there. Track motion, which is right here. Warp stabilizer, which is right there, and track and Boris FX Mocha. That is a whole separate tracking environment, and it's really powerful, but we're not going to be covering it right now in this class. So additionally, let's go ahead and let's just go start. I'm going to go ahead and select Street 1. And since this is the environment that we're going to be adding another tracker, I'm just going to go ahead and have the layer selected and do track motion. That's going to create another track point. And here it's called tracker 1. I'm going to rename this to car tracker and open that up and call it car point 1. Now, at least when I look up here and I have different things selected, I don't get my track points mixed up. So here I have my car point, and let's look into this. We didn't really do this before. You have something called a feature center, which we haven't, I've addressed, but we haven't really looked at. The feature center is this center area, and this is that center area that you actually put around a feature. You have something called confidence, and confidence is basically how confident the program is that it's tracking what you want. Another thing is the attach point, which is right here. That's the attach point. So these are things that we'll be developing keyframes, and we can look at those later as we go. So I need to go ahead and reposition this so that it is on our car window, our car door handle. So let me zoom in and carry it over, running out of space. So I'm going to press space bar, and that will move it over. I'm moving it when I have the double arrow there. And I'm going to put this right here. Now, I know this is going to cause some problems, but I want us to all see it. So I'm going to just go ahead and see if I can analyze this. I'm going to move forward. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Let's go ahead and current sticker should be okay. And what's happening is I tried to analyze this, and it would not, it didn't follow the car because the car was moving too fast. Let's look at that. So there's from the first frame to the second frame. And really this analyzes things one frame at a time. So the problem is that by the time after the next frame comes up, the car has moved out of this search area. So we actually need to find a way to redo that. So I'm going to go over here to the tracker and reset, and that's going to reset this car point. And I'm going to move this back here. We're going to be a little more deliberate about how it is put on. So one, I have the attach point on the bottom. It could potentially be up there, but I'm looking for a place of high contrast. So I think maybe this is good because you have a slight curve here, like it's the end of the dark area. There's a white frame that seems to be like a fairly high contrast area. Now what I also want to do is open up this the feature, and that is going to help make sure, like I want to enclose the entire handle. So now the feature tracker is actually tracking the entire handle. It's looking not just for that point, but it knows that point is on a feature. Okay, so now the feature is enclosed. Now this other box is the search area, and there we go. I can open this up because this is going to be where it is searching for the handle. Now we notice that the handle just moved way too fast, so it didn't it jumped out of the search area. So this is actually hopefully going to make this work much better. So let's go ahead and step forward a bit, and it seemed to track. It seems to be doing okay. So I'm going to move back because I think I actually was on the second frame. Okay, so this is the very first frame. I think it's looking pretty good. I'm just going to play forward and have it go all the way. Okay, that looks pretty good, except when it went off frame, it kind of created a bunch of junk. And we want to make sure that we don't have a lot of bad data. So I think a good thing to do is when things do go off frame, you don't want to have a whole bunch of junk there. So I'm going to move this back until that car point is there. So I know that up to this point, all the markers are good. I might move it forward until everything is totally off. And I'm just going to delete all these extra markers so we don't have a bunch of junky noise. And I think that's going to make things a lot better. Okay, so in addition to playing with the feature center and the attach point up here, you also have a series of options over in the tracker menu. And let's just look at those really quick. The options are, you can rename the tracker, which is the overall group of points. You can get additional plugins, but the built-in one is the only one that's loaded. Channel basically looks at what is this actually examining when you are looking for a point. So here it's looking at luminance, and luminance is basically the brightness. So this is kind of looking at the dark and light areas of this handle, and I think that's actually pretty good. You can also look at color saturation and RGB. So depending on what your point looks like, you might want to choose a separate channel. If you have a lot of noise, like a lot of static or digital noise, you might want to turn on Enhance Before Match. So it's going to enhance the image and get rid of noise before it matches. I'm going to turn that off because each one of these features kind of slows down the process, and if it's not needed, it's best to kind of not have it on. Track Fields is going to allow it to basically look at larger areas, and we have a nice feature here. Sub-pixel positioning is actually, it just looks at the details of the pixels, so I would leave that on always. And adapt feature on every frame. This is, for example, when the feature slightly moves, like if it slightly changes shape or something like that, it's going to look for that every frame by frame. It's going to look and analyze to see if that feature has changed shape and what part of that feature it could change. So you can tell this is a lot of it's a lot of judgments that After Effects is doing. So this actually is an advanced feature here. It's what happens to do if it is not sure what it's tracking. this is based off the confidence level of After Effects on this particular tracking point. So, and you can see the confidence is right here. I'm going to say okay like this. Cancel. This is actually, the confidence is slowly going down. You can see. So here it's at 100, and by the time it's off, by the time it's like at the off screen, it's like 89%. So it is not entirely confident it's doing the right thing. So here, on this last feature, you can decide what to do when the confidence level is below a certain threshold. So you can say when it's below 80 or below 90 or whatever, whenever it's below a certain point, it can do something. Will it continue tracking? And when it continued tracking, it was really trying hard to keep up, and we got a lot of junk pixels. We could also say stop tracking, and then it would just absolutely stop as soon as it went off screen. Extrapolate motion would mean that it would keep putting points at the same level it was putting points all the way off screen. And then adapt feature is really good for, again, if you're looking at something that has that is changing shape, and we'll look at something like that later. So anyway, so this is the motion tracking options. I'm going to say okay. I think we should be in pretty good shape now. I'm going to go ahead and apply. We'll make sure our edit target is sticker. And I'm going to go ahead and apply this at both X and Y. And it is moving on that car. Oh, it is going off. So what I would probably do is by the time it goes off, I'm not going to back up. We should probably set that to extrapolate motion. Actually, I'll just, we should set that to extrapolate motion, and then that would have fixed that. I will go ahead and show you another way to get this to fit onto your car. There's two ways to do that. One, you can look at the anchor point, is what we did before. I can move the anchor point of this object so it fits in. I can also look under the car point, and I can do, where'd it go? Attach point offset, which basically is going to give you kind of the same thing. And I think we'll see it better over here. So anyway, so there's two ways you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and change the anchor point into position, and that should be okay.